And now you are here in Paycor, in Cincinnati, for at least another 2 years because of this new extension. Congratulations, firstly, on that. I love how much you've embraced this team, how it's you. It just is. I love this photo.
Yes.
It's amazing. You called this a dream scenario. Why is this the dream scenario?
Well, you know, I think for me, just having the ability to play left tackle obviously is most important. Man, me and Joe are the same age. You know, we got a lot of good going on here. You know, our core is somewhat young with me and guys like Joe and Jamar and T and even Chase Brown and some of these other young guys that we have on defense as well. So to me, it just makes the most sense, man, for what I want in my football career. And you know, this city and community has really embraced me too.
I want to get into all of it, but you did the negotiating. This is, I think, the first time that you handled your extension. No agent, I don't think, probably a lawyer, I hope. But can you take me into that process, like everything? Tell me everything about that.
Yeah, no, you know, it's funny because it was a lot smoother than people would expect. Just because when you're representing yourself, a team has to take somewhat of a different approach. And, you know, I had a lot of fun with it. You know, the first thing that I did was I handwrote Mr. Brown a letter there at the end of the season, you know, just expressing to him how much I wanted to be here, how important it was for me to continue to establish, you know, the culture that we began to set in our locker room. And continuing to be a part of that. And I think they did a great job, man, just being straightforward with me. I was very straightforward with them, what I was looking for. You know, we all met in the middle. But yeah, no, man, I'm glad that everything played out the way it did.
Orlando, but give me the nitty gritty. Like, is it like took one day, you're sitting at a table across from Tobin, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, no,
was it phone calls, fax machine, Jerry Maguire? What's happening?
Yeah, that was a combination of it all, to be honest. You know, I sat down, I had, you know, a brief meeting with Steve Radicevich, who handles a lot of stuff for us. I met with, you know, him on several occasions, and he was somewhat the point man for everything. And so, with the way that he was and very being straightforward with me, and you know, he was kind of going back between myself and ownership. You know, it was a lot of conversations and talks with him specifically.
I think it's very impressive. I don't know. I do know where that confidence comes from with you. I think a lot of players don't have it. Can I ask you, like, what did Lamar have to do with that? Yeah,
no, it's funny because. Yeah, it's funny because, you know, I previously did have representation, but, you know, I've always been very involved with all of my moves, you know, probably from the point where I got to Kansas City moving forward. It was important to me to be involved, to understand the business side of things. And, you know, it can be intimidating as a player because it's not something that we necessarily go to school for. You know, it's a lot it's a lot of information, you know, you got to retain, and looking at everybody on our team's contract, looking at other contracts of other guys across the NFL, being able to, you know, meet in the middle with an organization is tough to do. And it can be intimidating in a way. But for me, I prepped myself as much as possible. I had really good insight from people, man. And you know, it just, it made the process a lot easier and gave me just that raw confidence that I needed to have, you know, when I sat down and I talked to Steve, and he was relaying what I said to ownership or, you know, whoever you know, he spoke to specifically.
Were there any like hard truths that you had to swallow? I think that's the reason.
Yeah.
You know, tell me about that. Like what? Because that's a whole thing to be like. I mean, I could go negotiate, but somebody would be like, she's whatever, all the list of things that I'm not great at, and then you're like, excuse me. So tell me about that part.
For sure. Well, I think that's when, as a player, you got to separate and understand business is business. And so for me in that position, you know, I already went into it, I want to say emotionless from that perspective, saying, look, man, no matter what they have to say, no matter what it is specifically they want to talk about, I'm going to have an answer for it. And I'm also not going to try to shoot myself in the foot by bringing up anything that they don't bring up. So, you know, there was things that came up in conversation that, you know, I agree with. There was things that came up that I disagree with. But at the end of the day, you know, I put my best business suit on,
Yes.
and you know, just was very straightforward with them with everything, man. And at the end of the day, this is what I do. This is what I love to do, and I'm in a place where I love to be. And so, to be honest with you, though, in terms of a timeline, I forgot to answer that on a previous question.
Okay.
It probably took somewhere close to a little bit over a month, I would imagine. But once numbers start getting spoken about, I mean, it was one day.
One day.
Oh yeah, yeah. It doesn't. I mean, listen.
You want to be
If
my
anybody's
agent?
telling you, yeah, if anybody's telling you it takes longer than that, normally there's something else going on. So,
Did Lamar inspire you? Because did Lamar inspire you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's something we've always talked about. You know what I mean? And I think more players should do it, man. I think at the end of the day, our word is one of the best things we have as professionals. And so, you know, half the time these teams don't really want to speak to the middleman anyway. They want to be able to talk to the player. And if you got a good understanding of yourself and how to do it, I think, you know, you can get the job done. You know, a lot of guys like Bobby Wagner, Lermy Tunsil, LJ, Lamar, you know, there's been a numerous number of guys to be able to do it and bring in real money.
Easy now, because Jerry Jones will trade for you after hearing this.
Yeah, no, that's funny.
I think it's, I mean, there's a way that you do things, and anybody that disrupts that, it's not always seen. I'm sure there's, you know, an agent perspective of this, and I'm just, you know, as a fan of yours, I just want you to be protected. But that you're saying and championing this, I think is pretty cool. You say, it's so funny because, like, you say playing left tackle. Like, I wish someone loved me the way that you love the left tackle position. And I don't think there was a chance that they were going to move you, but, like, that's your priority. It's almost like more important than anything else. Can you just, like, can you explain to me why versus, you know, or, like, what did right tackle ever do to you?
Yeah, no, man, right tackle was great to me, to be honest. It was great to my family. It opened the door for me to get in this league with myself, even my dad coming in and playing for 13 years on this level. But, you know, I something he always instilled in me was be better than me. And so as a kid, you know, he was a right tackle. He was an undrafted free agent. He was a rookie minicamp invitee that carved out his own path and made a way for himself. And so, you know, it was very hard for him to get to the point that he got at, to be an established starter for numerous years. And so, you know, once I really started paying attention to football and learning the game, he always spoke to me about playing left tackle. And from the moment that I started playing the game, it was the position that you know, he made sure that I learned and put me at. And so for me, man, it's just been that natural attachment. It's the position I've studied the most. It's where I'm most comfortable with the way my body's set up, being left-handed, being right-footed. You know, it just makes the most sense. And for me, it's where I'm most comfortable, where I feel like I'm able to play my best football.
From an agent perspective, it's a nice, there's lots of reasons to like.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, especially when you keep your 3%.
To like left tackle. Okay, left tackle as well. Since you're talking numbers, let's talk about these. Your one-on-one pass blocking reps. I wish you had texted me. I would have given you this info. No, I mean, no one had more one-on-one pass blocking reps than you, my friend. And there's a lot of respect in being left on an island, and there's nowhere to hide. What is going through Orlando Brown Jr.'s mind, snap to snap, when you know there is no one coming to help you?
Yeah, can I curse on here?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to curse? I love this shit. Like, I love it. Like, I love this shit. Because for me, like, it's like, that's what the game is about, you know, at the end of the day. Just having that respect for my peers, other coaches and front office execs, you know, people knowing going into a football game, man, you're going to see Orlando Brown one-on-one 40+ times in a game. And to me, that's everything. And I take a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of pride in our system and what they asked me to do. Honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way, man. I think just with my story, being such a sorry athlete, you know, in terms of my combine numbers, and to be able to go out there and do that week to week, I think it just speaks to my IQ and my natural ability, work ethic.
Yeah, your IQ, your natural ability, your work ethic. There's a word that's being message to me from people that, not that is new, but that is sticking out to me, and I don't think I've ever talked to you about, it's leadership.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm hearing that a little more with you lately.
Yeah.
T, I think, publicly described you as the vocal leader of the team, but him and Jamar, you know, Joe, they predate you in Cincy, and you come in there as a, you know, these guys are established, you're established. Like, how do you navigate finding that voice as a leader without overstepping?
Yeah, it's like the prison yard in a way. You know what I mean? Like you kind of you just kind of step into your role, and you understand you know, what's at stake and what they kind of want from you. And so for me, coming in here as a Bengal, obviously leaving Kansas City where we had just whooped up on them in the AFC Championship and went on and won a Super Bowl. You know, it was about helping establish the right culture, helping move the culture in the right direction, and most importantly, just being myself. You know, I'm the oldest of five. It's kind of how I was raised, and you know, I learned a lot from my time in Kansas City under guys like Pat and Trav and Chris Jones, just how they were on the day-to-day. And you know, like I said, I've always had that work ethic and approach. But coming here, I just kind of understood my role and what I needed to be. And man, they really embraced me and allowed me to be the full version of myself, man. Same thing with Coach Taylor, allowing me to be the full version of myself. And so, you know, I got a ton of respect for all of those men you just mentioned, man, because they, you know, they give me the confidence on Sunday to go out there and do my job at a high level.